Um, Hello. This interview is being recorded. Interviewee at any point in time is able to leave, can stay anonymous, and we'll get a playback of everything they've said just to verify that nothing unwanted was said or shared. So with that out of the way, do I have your consent to film and use this for research?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, well, who am I here with today?
Alexander Brown.
Awesome. And you're part of speech and debate, correct?
Yep.
What year are you?
I'm a freshman.
Freshman. So I'm assuming this is your first year with the team?
Yep, my first year, yeah.
Have you done speech and debate in the past?
Yeah, I did speech and debate for 4 years in high school, at Desert Vista High School.
How do you describe your time like with that team?
With that team, I'd say it's very positive. I made a lot of friends. I met a lot of people. I had a lot of fun. Uh, very, also very educational.
Very
Learned a
educational.
lot.
In what ways was it educational?
I learned a lot more about current events, but also more about like philosophy. I read a lot of books. I was introduced to a lot of ideas. I also just improved my communication skills and ability to talk about like wide, diverse range of topics.
Awesome. Would you say like what was the most helpful thing you've learned like with speech and debate in high school?
Uh, I think kind of understanding like what form an argument takes and what makes a good argument has been super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Even in college, I've had a lot of discussions, both in class and like out of class, or just kind of with people, where you can kind of realize that they're not making a very good argument, or maybe they're making a very good argument, but it's not in a form that makes it persuasive or effective. And I think that ability to understand what makes an argument effective is really vital to a lot of forms of communication, even outside of something political
Mm-hmm.
like debate. Technical communication, communication with your peers, communication in an educational setting all requires like making arguments and being able to formulate in a way that is easily comprehensible for other people.
So you would say speech and debate has had like a good academic impact like on you.
Yeah, I'd say 100%. Definitely got me interested in a lot of stuff outside of like just school. It got me interested in a lot of like public policy discussions, but also it just gave me a lot of skills that have been super useful, especially in college.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you have any like favorite memories? Like at least like regarding speech and debate in high school?
In high school, I'd say going to the national speech and debate tournament was pretty fun. We went to Iowa. That was great. It was definitely a interesting experience because I did a form of debate I hadn't done before, and I was able to learn a lot and develop a lot of skills that way. And I think it's really helped me coming to college where we're doing more of a partner form of debate.
Nice. Now I'm gonna get into like more college debate questions if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
So I guess like what do you do in ASU forensics or ASU speech and debate like as a debater?
So we do a lot of stuff. We have like weekly practice where we discuss the topic. We discuss the arguments available to us and the kind of we do a lot of discussion of like how good an argument is, how effective it is,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of what makes that argument good and how to kind of answer an argument, right?
Yeah.
And then we do practice rounds, that kind of stuff. But I would say mostly we do a lot of discussion of like the topic. We're doing energy policy this year, so that's definitely a big thing. And then we go to tournaments. So we travel to other universities and compete against other universities' academic debate teams. And those, it's a formal academic debate where we're judged by coaches and scholars. So that's definitely a very interesting experience because you learn a lot about not only like the topic that we're debating, but also about how to make arguments in an effective way
Mhm.
and how to communicate effectively.
Awesome. So you mentioned like coaches, like judging all that. Like, do practices have coaching and like, or is it just like students?
Yeah, so we have two coaches at ASU. We have Dr. Adam Simons and we have Richie Glover, who are great coaches. Or for debate, we have speech coaches as well. And they give us a lot of feedback. They help us learn about various forms of argumentation, about strategies that we can implement, and then they give us ways to improve our arguments. They give us a better understanding of the topic and the research surrounding it. So they're great. And yeah, the coaching is definitely an essential part of debate.
That's awesome. So I know speech and debate has like a different like or like a bunch of numbers of just different events you do. What specific events do you do?
So I do CARD, which is Collegiate Advocacy, Research, and Debate. It's a two-person debate format, so I debate with a partner, and we debate in roughly an hour-long debate. We debate over policy issues. So currently, we're debating about energy policy in the United States. Um, in high school, I did a couple other forms of debate, and I did extemporaneous speaking, which is also like a political speech form.
Hmm. So like I guess going off of your event, like, do you enjoy it, or like why do you
Yeah.
do card in like particular?
Um, yeah. So there's not. I mean, there's a couple forms of like college debate. There's college policy, and there's card, and there's like public forum as well, and some smaller debate forums. But card is one that ASU is really big into. It's a more accessible form of debate, but it's also one of the most educational form of debate because we have like a closed library of topics of sources we can use for discussing our topic. So that really enables like a deeper, more intricate debate where we really get down to a lot of details about, specifically what is this body of research telling us, how can we come up with the best arguments that describe the world in an accurate way and, bring us to a better understanding of the topic, right? So I think CARD is really cool in that sense. I very much do enjoy it. There's other forms of debate, but I'd say CARD is definitely one of the best forms available in college.
Yeah. So like you talked about like a lot of readings and everything. That sounds like a lot of work. How manageable is like I guess a school and like debate balance, basically?
Yeah, I'd say at ASU, it's definitely very, very good. I think we've, especially with card debate, it's definitely a more manageable form. It definitely, I mean, it obviously takes work like anything else, but it's so useful for helping with other courses and just your kind of understanding of current events that it really pays off. And it's not a whole lot of work every week. It's you're definitely reading papers and you're writing arguments and you're summarizing things and you're doing practice debates. But all of those are just skills that you kind of need to build as a college student. That ability to understand research and understand complex topics and to read about them. Right.
Right. I guess like do you have a favorite like type of argument you go for?
Yeah. So we really like debating the what we call the critique. So the critique is a form of argument where instead of making arguments about kind of the let's say the most like direct impacts of an issue, right? We make arguments that criticize like the broader structures of society and how these policy changes only fit into those broader societies and fail to break down them, right? So they often critique, structures like settler colonialism or capitalism or the patriarchy or racial capitalism or those kind of structures that kind of broadly exist in our society, and we apply these, like scholarly concepts and theories to the specific policies that we're debating about. So we can apply concept of colonialism to issues of energy,
Hmm.
and that's kind of a more unique form of argumentation that is maybe less a direct effect of let's say implementing a carbon tax, right? But
Hmm.
it's definitely a worthwhile consideration of the topic, right, to bring in these broader structures.
So not only is it just like learning about like policies, but it's like actual like advocacy and like everything you learn about, not just like the specific topic.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the important parts of, critical discussions is that we're able to formulate better ways to address these structures in our world, right? So we come up with ideas for how we can seek to fight settler colonialism, even as scholars in debate, we figure out ways that we can, you know, get rid of these, settler concepts that have plagued our world. And I think that makes us better advocates, but also better researchers and better students, because as we begin to understand like these theories that are so important, then we can figure out ways to like improve not only ourselves but also our work and our understanding of our world.
It makes sense. So I guess like how's the team atmosphere like? Um,
Yeah,
do you
it's
enjoy being
great.
there?
Yeah, definitely enjoy it. There's a lot of us now, so there's definitely a lot of people going to tournaments. It's very supportive. It's very fun. There's a lot um, of like help and positive atmosphere. There's a lot of benefit to people explaining what they think is the best argument. We pass ideas back and forth. We work together. We cooperate on arguments a lot of the time. It's really great.
That's awesome. I recently did an interview with someone on the speech team, and they were talking about how like not only do they make friends on the team, but with other teams. Is that also true for debate? I know it's kind of more direct competition-y, so it might be different.
I'd say it's definitely true. Met a lot of people. Met some great people from other universities, from Weber State, from Western Washington University. We've met some great people. It's um, definitely very very fun. I think all the competition is in good spirit. I think everyone just wants to participate, to have fun, to really learn. So I think it's very much a cooperative atmosphere, and specifically the card format is great for building a sense of community around debate. Met a lot of people, not only like other competitors, but also like coaches and judges. It's been very interesting to talk to. So
That's
very very good experience.
that sounds awesome. So like you meet these people through tournaments, right? Can you walk me through a
Yeah.
tournament and like how that would look like?
Yeah. So tournaments in our debate format are 2 days long, right? So they run Saturday and then the first half of Sunday, and we either go to travel tournaments or we would go to online tournaments. So whichever one. On travel tournaments, we'd fly out on Friday. Online tournaments were just here, ASU. So it's usually there's 4 preliminary rounds on Saturday and then one Sunday morning, and then there's a showcase round where the best 2 teams in each division compete, which is super interesting and often fun to really watch and see the kind of the best people in the event do it. So yeah, it's very nice. It's kind of all within the weekend. It's fun because you get to go places, you get to meet a lot of different people, you
Hmm.
get to have fun competing. It's definitely not as demanding as some other debate formats, but it's also just great experience, and it's a lot of education.
Do you have any like favorite memories? Like I know I asked this with like high school debate, but do you have any for college debate?
For college debate, um, I'd say we went to the Western Washington tournament in Bellingham. That was very fun. The weather was amazing. It was nice and cool. Yeah, had a lot of fun there. Had delicious Indian food. It was really a great experience overall. Met a lot of debaters there. It was one of the best tournaments of the year, I think.
That's awesome. Is like, do you guys travel often, or is it like a rarity? And like, how does travel work? Do you pay for it, or like, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, we've traveled fairly often. I think we in the fall we went to I think 3 travel tournaments,
Hmm.
and yeah, there's definitely a lot of tournaments. Sometimes there's online tournaments as well, but the travel is good. The travel is all paid for by the team, so we don't pay for travel. We just pay for food.
Hmm.
So the hotels and flights are covered, which is really great, which is amazing. I'm thankful for that. So Yeah, it's great experience. Get to get to go out places, see new places. Very fun.
That's cool. So I know you said you have like a favorite tournament, but like, have you had like a favorite location like you've been to like in particular or
I'd say Oregon was very
Oregon?
nice. Oregon, yeah, got some great Chinese food in Oregon. That was really cool. Yeah, beautiful weather up there in the fall. So yeah.
That's awesome. So when I was interviewing someone from speech, they said like they travel like really often, like like very often, I guess. So I was wondering
Yeah.
like if someone really wanted to travel, could they do both speech and debate, or would it just have to be one or the other?
No, you can do both speech and debate. Um, most people choose one or the other, but there's definitely people who do both, and I think it can be really useful, especially with how cross applicable a lot of the skills are, where you can take things from debate or from speech and use them in other forms.
Has you talked about like I guess like outside of class it's been helpful, like how so?
Well, a lot of times, just with friends or at meetings or talking to people,
Mm-hmm.
the people will want to have discussions about political topics or philosophical topics, and just being able to have those discussions in a manner where you're really well informed and you're also confident in making arguments and being able to communicate your point clearly is just super helpful. I find often a lot of people think that you know they think that like you're able to convince a lot of people or at least make them like see your side of the argument,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know just by having debate skills and by applying some of the same concepts you use in like a more academic format just to normal everyday conversations.
That sounds nice. And like, would you say like these skills would help you in like any career or just like I guess you talk about like current life, but do you see it being useful later on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say most people in debate are more like political science majors or that kind of public policy majors. But I'm like an electrical engineering major, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of a little out of the way. But I think even for like engineering majors and for like non-political, like people not going into political spheres where it's kind of obvious the benefit, it's super helpful just to be able to communicate. In all my courses, my teachers say the most important thing is being able to communicate. It's being able to clearly explain things because communication is really what makes the world work. Everywhere in every single field, you have to work with other people. You have to be able to communicate ideas and strategies and concepts of all sorts of kinds to people, and the ability to do that very clearly and concisely is crazy important anywhere.
I agree 100%. So, does the team like do anything like I guess like team bonding wise or something to get you closer with your teammates?
Yeah, absolutely. On the Sundays after the tournament, we'll always go to like a team lunch, which is super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Been to a lot of interesting restaurants, other places, so that's always been great, and it's so cool to talk to the team. So it's definitely fun, and then practice is always very good atmosphere, very welcoming and fun. So I'd say we're kind of always team bonding in some sense.
That's awesome. Would you like I guess you've had a favorite tournament, but do you have like a favorite round you've competed in?
Um, I wouldn't say I had a favorite route, but I always enjoy debating one of the Gonzaga teams.
Mm-hmm.
Gonzaga RW is their code as we call it. It's the thing that comes up on the round pairing, and they always bring a very interesting debate. They usually have some sort of discussion of capitalism, but also they've branched a lot into the discussion about the impact of renewable energy on rare earth mineral mining, which is crazy interesting topic. It always makes for a very challenging debate because they're one of the best teams. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
say any round we've had with them, I think I've debated them 4 times maybe this year. So that's been a lot of fun.
Can you think of like any negatives with joining speech and debate?
I don't know. I couldn't really give you a specific negative. I guess in some sense, I'm like addicted to it. It's pretty good. But yeah.
I mean, that doesn't sound like
Yeah,
that bad of a problem. Yeah.
it does not.
Would you change anything this like I guess this year like in debate?
I wouldn't say it would change anything. I think it's been a very good experience overall. I do kind of wish that I, maybe spent more time over winter break, which is super useful time to get ahead. I didn't really spend
Mm-hmm.
much time thinking about the topic, so that could have been better if I, spent a little time there and tried to get ahead. But overall, I think I was able to do a fair bit, after break, and we still had plenty of success at the tournaments. So I wouldn't say that I have much regrets this year. I Next year definitely want to get more into it. Try to see if we can win more tournaments.
Mm-hmm. Would you ever like do any other like events other than card?
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at doing speech maybe for next year. That could be very interesting. I'm not sure with the kind of the doing both speech and debate is
Mm-hmm.
somewhat of a time issue, especially have a very full course load in the fall.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. But definitely would be interested in doing a speech event or even another debate event. Looking at doing policy debate, which is another form of debate we do,
Mm-hmm.
could be very interesting.
What's the difference between policy and card debate?
Policy is a bit less accessible. Policy debates, one of the oldest debate forms in the United States, all the way back in the 1909 was the first modern version of the policy debate format that we see, and it's definitely has a kind of a more intense culture. It has longer tournaments. There's a lot more competitive nature compared to like card, which is very community oriented and very cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
Policy debates very competitive. There's a lot of huge tournaments and a massive amount of people doing it who are all very academically driven.
Yeah.
So definitely a more intense format, but I would say also very interesting, um, more room for making different kinds of arguments.
So you said like accessibility oriented for card. What makes like card more accessible?
I'd say that it's a lot easier for beginners or people who are new to debate for a couple of reasons. I guess the first would be that policy debate is typically people in policy debate talk very fast. It's a form of talking called speed reading.
Mm-hmm.
It helps fit in more arguments. You're able to make more arguments if you can talk faster because there's like speech times. And card doesn't really have that. It's always very slow conversational pace, which is a lot easier for beginners to get used
Mm-hmm.
to. But it's also a lot more. It's very more. It's a shorter time format, but it's also more in depth. Right? There's not so much this disparate discussion of a lot of different issues. Instead, you're kind of focused on one or two issues, and you're able to really get a better understanding of it. And the fact that we have kind of a closed library that makes you get these forms of research just from a couple sources is super good for you don't have to do a crazy amount of research
Yeah.
like you might do in policy debate, but instead you have a very nice amount of time that it takes and a very manageable load for research and reading articles.
I mean that makes sense. So you mentioned like a card library with limited amount of resources. Does that ever get like frustrating? Like, are there disadvantages to having like less resources to pull from?
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely some frustration with sometimes you need to make an argument and the evidence is just not there for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it also kind of creates like some creativity because you're able to figure out like more interesting strategies that maybe you wouldn't have about if you just gone for the first thing that you could have thought and you googled it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to creatively interpret that. It can be frustrating, difficult at times, but I think the benefits are definitely there with regards to accessibility and also the depth and the reduced scope of arguments, allowing for like more deeper and more interesting debates.
Yeah, I can see that. So earlier, I guess in this interview, you talked about something called a critique. Are there any more like terms like that that someone not familiar with speech or debate would have trouble understanding?
There definitely is. In card, we try to stick away from the more jargon terms, but there's definitely a lot of terms that maybe aren't immediately known. I'd say anyone who competes in academic competitive debate will pick them up fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually just like concepts that kind of everyone understands, but we put a different name to. So, we often talk about like alternatives to the policy being discussed. We call them counter plans because the policy being discussed is called a plan. It's really just like jargony, like shortcut terms to get around, having to explain long issues. But there's definitely some more like technical jargon terms. But I'd say it's in CARD at least, it's very easy for people to pick up. It won't take someone new joining that long to pick up like a new form of jargon. It's just kind of a little bit of a different language that helps us communicate clear in a technical fashion.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess like trying to figure out how to word this. I guess actually I have a better question. I guess this is probably the most important question. Would you recommend speech and debate like to peers or just anyone who might have an interest in it?
Yeah, I absolutely would. I'd say it's one of the best things you can do, not only for you academically and for putting on a resume or whatever, but just for you as a person. I think it's so important to have an understanding of like policy issues in our world, but also the ability to communicate. It's vital to we discussed careers. It's vital to careers. It's just vital to like you as a person being able to talk to other people. Communication is just one of the skills that no one can live without, and it's one of the things that can just take every one of your other skills and your other abilities and kind of supercharge them, because suddenly you're able to help others with them and communicate the ideas that you have. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a great experience. It's also super fun. It's a lot of traveling, a lot of making friends, a lot of just kind of fun experiences. So I'd say there's a lot of benefits to joining speech and debate.
Do you have any like you talked about earlier about like how it's just like helped you in general, but do you have any specific like experiences where like having this debate knowledge has like set you apart from others in like a successful way?
Yeah, absolutely. So in one of my courses we discussed a lot of like literature and texts, and we always my teacher is very interested in colonialism. He brings up a lot of texts with colonialism, and because I've had this background knowledge from discussing colonialism in a debate context, I think I'm able to contribute more to the discussion, and bring a lot more to the table in both terms of understanding other people's argument, but also communicating arguments to others. I found a lot of people, find that, sometimes it's hard to communicate the ideas that they have about texts or complex issues like colonialism. And debate is really one of those things that it just makes that so easy. At some point, you're just able to kind of clearly and concisely give this idea to someone else, even if it's, from crazy complicated work or from a philosophical text that's very difficult to read. If you're able to communicate that concisely, it can be super helpful in that kind of course.
I mean, that seems pretty realistic. I think I've had a couple times where giving in-class presentations, I just sound a little better than most people just because no one really prepped, but it makes it a lot easier to go off the dome. We're almost out of time, but I should have asked this at the start, but like, how was your break?
Oh, my break was great. Had a lot of fun. Yep. Excited to get back to school. So we'll see. We have a debate tournament soon in April, so that'll be fun to get back into the research and to work on that. Yeah, break was great.
I guess I have time for one last question here. What would you say to anyone who like wants to join, but just hasn't yet?
I'd say just do it. Why not? There's no downside. You can always back out later, but I doubt you'll want to. It's really a great experience. Just come to the meetings Wednesdays in the social science building. So yeah, come show up, learn debate. Crazy useful skill, crazy fun team. Just great experience to be part of.
Awesome. I think that's about it, but I want to thank you for the interview, and once again, just clarifying, I have permission to use all this, right?
Yep. I said yeah, right.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good one.
Yep.